Donna's room, mysterious notes, and the disturbing phone call. In 1970, Donna, a nursing student, lived with her best friend Angie in a small apartment in Hartford, Connecticut. On her birthday, Donna received a gift from her mother, a seemingly innocent Raggedy Ann doll. Little did she know that this would mark the beginning of a horrifying series of events. At first, Donna placed the doll on her bed in her room. But within days, she and Angie started noticing strange occurrences. Donna would return home to find the doll in different positions and locations. Sometimes it was sitting on the sofa, other times at the kitchen table. Donna assumed Angie was moving it, but Angie denied ever touching the doll. At first, they brushed it off as a harmless prank. One day, Donna found a small piece of paper under the doll's feet with the words, "Help me," scrawled in red ink. What was peculiar was that they had no such paper or ink in the apartment. Soon after, more notes appeared with similar cries for help. Fear began to grow, and the girls decided to lock the doll in Donna's room to see if anything changed. The situation took a darker turn one night, when Donna received a phone call in the middle of the night from an unknown number. On the other end, she heard a young girl's voice whisper, "Mommy, help me." Donna was terrified because the voice mirrored the same pleas found on the mysterious notes. Panicked, Donna and Angie called a psychic to investigate the bizarre happenings. After a séance, the psychic revealed that the spirit of a young girl named Annabelle Higgins was inhabiting the doll. Annabelle had supposedly died in the area and was seeking companionship, feeling safe with Donna and Angie. Out of sympathy, Donna agreed to let the spirit of Annabelle stay with them, not realizing the true evil lurking behind the doll. 2. The fatal knock and tragic motorcycle accident. After the infamous story of Annabelle was publicized, the doll was transferred to the Warren Occult Museum, run by paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren. Many believed that once Annabelle was secured in a protective glass case, the supernatural occurrences would cease. However, Annabelle's presence only seemed to intensify the dread within the museum. One fateful day, a young couple visited the museum, intrigued by the legend of the cursed doll. The man, confident and skeptical, repeatedly mocked the exhibits, showing no fear. As they approached Annabelle's glass case, he banged on the glass and taunted the doll. "If you're real, show me," he jeered. Lorraine Warren cautioned him against provoking forces he didn't understand, but her words fell on deaf ears. The couple left the museum, laughing and feeling amused by the eerie tales. On their way home, while riding a motorcycle through a deserted stretch of road, they suddenly lost control, crashing violently into a tree. The man was thrown from the bike and killed instantly. His girlfriend, though seriously injured, survived. When she awoke in the hospital, she recounted hearing a faint knocking sound just before the crash, eerily similar to the one they had heard at Annabelle's glass case. The police couldn't determine the exact cause of the accident, but the young woman firmly believed it was Annabelle's curse. After recovering, she returned to the museum and relayed the horrifying details to Lorraine Warren. Lorraine, with deep sorrow in her eyes, understood that Annabelle had claimed another victim, a grim reminder that the doll's malevolence was far from over. The nightmare, Annabelle's revenge. On another occasion, a group of university students visited the Warrens' museum. Among them was a young woman who, like many before her, didn't believe in the paranormal. She scoffed at the warnings about Annabelle's powers, even going as far as to place her hand on the glass and challenge the doll. "If you're real, prove it." That night, she returned to her dorm and fell asleep, only to be plunged into a terrifying nightmare. In her dream, she found herself trapped in a dark room, the walls closing in on her. From the shadows, Annabelle emerged, her blank button eyes glowing red. As the doll slowly crept towards her, the woman felt an overwhelming sense of dread. Annabelle climbed onto the bed, moving closer until she was on the woman's chest, pressing down. A tight grip suddenly wrapped around the woman's throat, squeezing until she could barely breathe. She tried to scream, but no sound escaped. The doll's sinister laugh echoed through the dream, a sound that chilled her to the bone. The woman jolted awake, drenched in sweat, only to discover bruises around her neck, as if someone had strangled her in her sleep. Though she dismissed it as just a nightmare, the physical marks were undeniable. Every night after that, she was haunted by the same nightmare. unable to shake off the fear that Annabelle had marked her. 4. The Man Who Was Strangled, Lorraine's Warning. Another story involves a middle-aged couple who visited the museum, drawn by the mystique of the infamous doll. Like many others, the husband was skeptical, mocking the idea that a doll could be dangerous. He laughed at the curse and even made fun of Annabelle in front of Lorraine Warren, calling it a hoax. Lorraine, knowing the doll's true nature, sternly warned him not to mock things he didn't understand. But he ignored her advice and continued to laugh. On the drive home, he began to feel an unbearable tightness in his chest, as if the air around him had thickened. Soon, his breathing became labored, and he felt an invisible force wrapping around his neck, choking him. His wife, seeing him in distress, rushed to the nearest hospital, all the while praying that her husband would survive. By the time they reached the hospital, the man had fainted from lack of air. When he woke up, he couldn't recall the details of what happened, but the sensation of being choked was still fresh in his mind. The couple later returned to the museum to apologize to Lorraine, fully believing that Annabelle's curse had struck. From that day onward, the man never spoke ill of the doll again, deeply haunted by the experience. 5. The Glass Case Repairman and the Dark Shadow. In an effort to preserve the protective glass case around Annabelle, Ed and Lorraine Warren would occasionally hire a professional repairman to ensure it remained in perfect condition. On one such occasion, a seasoned glassworker was called in to replace a cracked panel. He had over 20 years of experience and was completely unfazed by stories of the supernatural. As he began his work, carefully removing the damaged glass, he couldn't shake the feeling that something, or someone, was watching him. Every time he looked around, he saw nothing but the lifeless objects of the museum. But as he crouched down to inspect the base of the case, he caught a glimpse of a dark shadow flickering in the corner of his eye. Dismissing it as a trick of the light, he continued working. However, the shadow began appearing more frequently, moving from one corner of the room to another. His unease grew, and a cold sweat formed on his brow. Just as he finished installing the new glass and stood up, he felt a sudden sharp tug on his shoulder. Whipping around, he saw no one, but his eyes locked onto Annabelle. The doll's vacant eyes seemed to fixate on him, filled with a malevolent presence. A wave of terror washed over him as he realized this was no ordinary job. That evening, after returning home, the repairman received a phone call from an unlisted number. When he answered, all he heard was a childlike, sinister giggle, the same laugh that had haunted his mind since leaving the museum. Too frightened to ever return, he believed Annabelle had left her mark on him as well. Shortly after, Lorraine Warren noticed a new crack in the supposedly unbreakable glass. It was as though no matter how hard they tried, nothing could fully contain the evil lurking within Annabelle. Each of these stories demonstrates that Annabelle's malevolent spirit continues to terrorize those who come into contact with her. From mysterious shadows to deadly accidents, Annabelle's curse has left its victims haunted, and she shows no sign of stopping. These true stories serve as chilling reminders of forces beyond our understanding, waiting for their next unsuspecting prey.